Hello everyone, welcome back to Paul's Messy Bench Models. Today I've got a build review of Revell's 1980 Jeep Honcho Ice Patrol Boxing. Revell has engineered this kit to go together pretty quickly and simply. There's no major fit issues. If you just build it straight out of the box, you'll get a pretty good looking truck without a lot of effort. So it's a fun kit, and if you build it out of the box, it'll go pretty quickly. I decided to add a lot of extra detail, so mine took a lot longer. An example of some of the simplifications that Revell did for this kit is on the underside, where basically if something could be made out of just one part, they did it that way instead of having several parts for better detail. For example, the differentials, axles, and leaf springs, both front and back, are molded as all one piece. So it goes together pretty quick and easy. The spare tire was simplified and molded in with the frame. It was very simplified. I didn't like the look of it, so I cut it out and stole a kit tire from the spares box and stuck it back there. There is an accuracy issue with this kit. From what I could find out, it seemed like the front differential on the 1980 and later is supposed to be on the driver's side, and it's over here on the passenger side. If you follow the instructions, your drive shaft will hook up to this side of the transfer case, and it'll be almost touching the cab floor. I couldn't find any pictures of a Jeep set up that way, so basically I bent it over and attached it to the other side of the transfer case, and it seems to make more sense over there. There's room for the suspension to go up and down without banging the floor of the cab. Revell also simplified the kit by making the interior tub and the floor of the cab as one piece. So the floor of the cab, if you build it out of the box, will stop at the interior edge of the cab tub, so it won't go all the way to the sides of the truck. I put in some scraps of sheet styrene and added some styrene details to basically widen the floor so they came to the edges of the body. I really didn't like the way that Revell molded the kit wheels. Jeep wheels from back then were supposed to have 6 lugs, and the kit wheels had only 5. And the hubs in the center of the wheel looked really puny. So I drilled those out, and in the back I just replaced it with sort of a cylindrical cap. And on the front I added some manual locking hubs to the front wheels. And also the rim of the wheel was just really flat and smooth all the way in toward the spokes, and it just didn't look right. So I chucked the kit wheels in a lathe, scraped away a little bit toward the rim just to give it more detail around the edge. It still doesn't look like a stock wheel, but I think it looks better than it did. The engine goes together pretty well. It's reasonably detailed. The fit of the intake manifold and the valve covers is a little bit sloppy, but nothing horribly bad. You can make it work. When you put together the windows of the cab, one thing to keep an eye out for is that the chrome strip at the top of the windshield is actually molded onto the clear part, so it's easier to paint it before you install it. And for the back window of the cab, there is actually no transparent piece provided. You just get the sunshade, and with the sunshade in there, you can't really tell that there's no back windows. One of the things that Revell did to keep the kit simple was to mold the cab and the bed as all one piece. So to get it to pop out of the mold without making $1 million mold, basically they did not have any detail on the inside walls of the bed or the front interior wall of the bed, and you didn't get any stake holes in the top edge of the bed. So what I did is I glued strips of plastic on the inside surface at the top edge to sort of build up a flat area here, and I left rectangular holes for the stake pockets. And I took little rectangular pieces of styrene in odd shapes, and I glued it along the inside to make it look like the reinforcing strips on the interior surface. Also, the tailgate has detail on only one side. Revell gives you the Jeep logo and the recessed area and the latch on the outside surface of the tailgate, but the inside surface, as you get it, is perfectly smooth. So I pondered how I was going to get sort of the Jeep logo in reverse on the inside, and I managed to do it. I don't know if I could recommend this to anybody else. What I wound up doing was burnishing a piece of bare metal foil to the outside, cutting a rectangular strip of plastic about the size of the recessed area, and then I slathered super glue on top of the bare metal foil and pressed the plastic down into it, and eventually the super glue cured. It took a long time because a lot of it wasn't exposed to air, and eventually when I popped the plastic off, I sort of get a reverse mold of the Jeep logo. It had an aluminum surface, so I had to find a primer that would actually stick to aluminum so that I could paint it. Actually, my first attempt, I tried 5-minute epoxy, and you can see that the epoxy had enough flex in it that when I peeled the piece off, I got all these crazy wrinkles in it. Maybe an epoxy that dried harder would work. Maybe something like JB Weld, but I haven't tried it. But it's possible. Maybe somebody else can figure out a better way. Another thing about the tailgate is that Revell doesn't give anything to hold it open. So if you open the tailgate, it'll just flop down and rest on top of the bumper. The real truck had sort of a rectangular bar hinge here. What I did is I drilled a hole. Well, I carved away a rectangular area in the side. Then I drilled a tiny hole here. Got a piece of wire with a right angle bend in it on this end. And I drilled a hole so that the wire would pass in between the inner and outer walls of the bed. And at kind of the right spot there, I bent another right angle in the wire so that it wouldn't come out all the way. And that way it'll stop when the tailgate is flat. The inner surface of the doors are molded as part of the interior tub, so the detail on the door is really faint and shallow. Revell does give you decals for the instrument cluster, and I discovered that the spacing between the gauges on the decal did not match the spacing between the gauges on the plastic. So I would recommend you cut the gauges apart and put them on one at a time, and then paint black in between the gauges. The tires that you get with the kit are okay. They've got kind of a 1960s looking mud tire look to them. They don't have any sidewall detail. The tires I have on the truck I threw out the package, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think these are from Firewall Model Works. BF Goodrich all-terrains. They look nice. And with the truck this high up off the ground, you can really see a lot of the tires, so it's nice to get some good tires on there. So the Firewall, as you get it from Revell, the details are moved over to the sides where they can be molded as part of the fenders. And you have this wide blank area right behind the engine that just looks like it's begging for detail. So what I did was I carved off the molded in detail where it was over by the fenders, and I plugged the holes. And then I scratch built little doodads and things, and I just kind of messed up the Firewall a little bit just to make it look a little busier. I got a distributor from another kit, and I stuck it on over here. Revell just kind of gives you the stub where the distributor would be, but they don't actually give you a distributor. This air cleaner is not the Revell air cleaner. I lost it. I don't know where the heck it went, but that's actually from a 57 Fairlane with a snorkel added on. So Revell gives you some interesting optional parts if you want to use them. You get a roll cage and off-road lights, and you can have a push bar. Comes with a little toolbox to put in the bed. You get a CB antenna. You don't get a CB though. You get a couple of gas tanks. And I started working on the gas tanks. I haven't finished them. So the gas tanks, jerry cans, as you get them from Revell, they're missing the middle handle. And the caps are just a flat disc. So I punched some discs out of plastic, and I kind of built up some detail on this one. And on the other one, I was making a filler pipe. The more I worked on these, the more I felt like I was polishing a turd, because the proportions of them just seem odd, and the corners seem much too sharp. I'm kind of used to seeing gas cans that are much more rounded at the corners. Probably the coolest thing you get in the kit, though, is the Snowmobile. I haven't really finished the Snowmobile. I'm not sure I have the enthusiasm to finish the Snowmobile, but it's there if you want it. Comes with some nice decals. It has gauge decals, but I haven't put them on yet. This track on the bottom comes in a left and right half, and you can see into the middle of it. So do yourself a favor and paint the inside black before you glue the halves together. Otherwise, it's really a pain to try to get the paint inside. This console area, it seems like it's a little too wide, and the glass doesn't want to come down all the way. So you might want to carve or sand a little bit away from the sides of the console before you try to glue the glass on. You get some nice decals to put on your kit. These Honcho decals, you can have them in blue and purple, or this yellow and orange. This whole side of the truck is all one continuous decal, and it can be a bit nerve-wracking to get it on there. So on the driver's side, I put it on in all one piece, and by the time I got to the passenger side, I decided that was a bad idea. So what I did is I referenced these holes in the side, which are for the mirror bracket, and I measured out from those so I could cut the decal at the front of the door and the back of the cab, so I could do it in 3 pieces instead of one continuous piece. And that was a little bit easier. So the hinges on the hood The way they're engineered, the hood won't stay open until you basically open it up until it's vertical and can rest on the front of the cab. So what I did was I glued little blocks of plastic to the firewall with holes drilled in them, and I inserted thin steel pins up into the bottom edge of the hinge so that I can stick the pins down into the block, and that way the hood will stop at about 45 degrees and stay there. And the pins are short enough that if I just lift the hood straight up, then they'll disengage and then I can close the hood. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.